Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman. And unfortunately, I missed a lot of your testimony because of other responsibilities, including voting on the floor. So I'm not exactly sure what's been stated, so I apologize if I'm replowing land you've just plowed moments ago. But I'm just interested in the broad conclusion of whether, I mean, based on what we heard yesterday, you probably read about it in summaries if you didn't see it at all, about what we actually knew or did not know with respect to al-Qaeda in the intelligence community. And my first question is, is it your judgment that we knew and we had broadcast the fact that they were capable of carrying out a mass casualty attack on U.S. soil? One of my concerns, frankly, is that sometimes we don't talk publicly enough about the potential threats which could embrace all Americans in helping prevent it. And my question to you is, was that something which you felt was publicly issued before it happened on September 11th, 2001, beyond just the intelligence community knowing?
Well, I think there was, again, this is you have to see this like a photograph developing in developer, which becomes clearer over time and certainly becomes clearer after 9/11. But I think that as we got into 97, 98, it was clear that there was an al-Qaeda network that bin Laden was at the center of. This was something that we talked about a great deal. And I said earlier, Congressman, that in June of 98, I said on television, bin Laden is the #1 terrorist threat to the United States. And where there were, the President spoke about terrorism and al-Qaeda and bin Laden very frequently. I mean, I provided a committee, the committee staff, 270 single-spaced pages of statements that President Clinton made about terrorism, al-Qaeda, bin Laden over the 8 years this thick. Where there was specific threat information, obviously that was provided, but we did not really have, as I said earlier, specific threat information with respect to the United States. And I think that the threat in the United States was underestimated. The threat information we generally had, for example, we had threat information that the Tirana embassy in Albania was going to be attacked. We sent 300 Marines and stopped the attack. During the millennium, we warned the American people that there was a general threat of terrorist activity during the millennium, and I've talked about what we did in that connection. But I don't think there was specific threat information with respect to the United States that we did not provide. And in general, I think, as I said earlier, the threat picture in the United States, I think, was not sufficiently seen.
I'm not trying to play the blame game at all with this. I mean, I am one of those who wishes very much to resolve these problems as far as the future is concerned. But I mean, you were there in 1998 when the attacks took place as a national security advisor. And bin Laden at that point was clearly identified by everybody. And yet we had testimony yesterday that the FBI really didn't have a lot of resources focused on this. And my sense is that even though most of us who've worked either on this committee or at the White House knew about this, that perhaps the actual intelligence community did not have quite the focus we would like to have on bin Laden. And I realize that the President did, and I realize that you did. But the question is, in a broad sense, did we in the intelligence community as a whole, and this is not faulting anybody when I say this, have the focus that we should have had on bin Laden in retrospect? And I realize in retrospect everything's a little bit simple.
Congressman, I was puzzled by the statement by the FBI that they didn't understand.
Statement yesterday?
That I read in the paper today.
Exactly.
That they didn't understand the al-Qaeda or bin Laden threat. They met 3 times a week in a highly secret counterterrorism security group in which all of this information was on the table. We went through the millennium together where we knew that there would be, we were told there'd be 5 to 15 attacks in the United States. We met at the White House at the highest level, Attorney General, Director Free, Secretary of State, every single day for a month, for at least an hour. We were a high-level fusion cell, if you want to call it that, during the millennium period. And nothing happened in the millennium. I believe we stopped some things from happening. How you could walk away from those experiences and not understand. We were trying to kill bin Laden. We dropped cruise missiles on him. How you could not understand. I think this is an internal FBI issue of communication from top to the field and field to the top. But there was no question, I think, that al-Qaeda was a threat, bin Laden was a threat, certainly within all of the elements of the intelligence community.
My time is up, and I can't ask you another question I wanted to ask you, but maybe we can discuss it someday, and it would have been whether you were satisfied with the extent of our human intelligence during the period of time that you were in the White House.
I'd be happy to at any
Somebody else
time,
can
Congressman.
bring it out.